Salbona Nicona, welcome to the 10th episode of What's Your Flip. I'm your host, Chris Mercado. We have a special treat for you guys this afternoon. I have a legend from the Philippine music scene joining the program today. She is probably one of the pioneers of the ska movement here in the Philippines, and then she eventually moved on to being a jazz chanteuse in her own right. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest. Her name is Skarlet, otherwise known, especially if you guys came from the 90s, Mayra Ruaro, formerly of Puchiska and the Brown Beat All-Stars. Welcome to the show, Skarlet. So good afternoon, Skarlet. Um, Thank you for joining the show. Before we start, I'd like to give a special acknowledgement to Mr. Sam Valdecantos, an old friend of mine, for setting this together. And it's such a huge honor for you to be part of the show. So maybe for the benefit of the viewers, Scarlett, especially for those who are not so familiar about your background, how do you start out? We all know that you started out with ska and now you're into jazz. So maybe you could give us a brief background on your beginnings and where you are now.
Yeah. Before I answer your question, Chris, I would like to thank you also for inviting me. Yeah, I'm Scarlett, and formerly known as Myra Ruaro. And actually, Chris, regarding your question, my evolution with music is sort of like it started from my musical career started when I was in college, playing for a college band called Ardor and Delirium, and our genre at that time was goth, and yes, and some of the members of my former band are was later known as Alamid, and I resigned from the group, and then sort of like eased in doing ska, because around that time before before I left Ardor and Delirium, I resigned from Ardor and Delirium. We're already playing with Luis Giang, who at that time wanted to do or to put up a ska band, and he invited me to join in his ska band, which is later on will be called at that time Putriska. But before that, we had a ska punk band, me and him and some members of Alamid and the co-founder of Putriska, Rommel. So we just did one gig, and then after 3 years, you know, we we reunited again, and yeah, it was already Putriska. And from ska, yeah, we had two albums under Octard CMI. We signed up immediately, like a couple of months after I joined the band, and after 4 years, after two albums and 4 years with Putriska, I resigned and formed my own ska swing band, which is the Brown Beat All Stars. And around that time, because I'm also a closet jazz big band fan, so even with Putriska, I was already listening to a lot of those stuff, and it helped me with my songwriting, my sort of like arranging skills started from there by listening a lot of jazz big bands, bands like Chick Webb, Duke Ellington, that type of music, and which is quite evident with Putriska too and Brown Beat All Stars. And then during Brown Beat All Stars, well, we're doing Brown Beat All Stars under Viva Records, Viva Nia Records. We had an album with them. I was already doing jazz, like I'm jamming with the remaining members of Lito Molina's, the legendary Lito Molina's jazz Friends. Lita Molina's Jazz Friends is one of the pioneers of big bands here in the Philippines. So, senior ko sila. They're really, at that time, you know, their age range, when I was 28, 29, they're pushing 70. So, my mentors are all old school. So, because I'm really into it too. So, that started accidentally, jamming with them, word came out like, that Putriska girl, she sings jazz. I wasn't even, planning to go into jazz or planned or dreamed of becoming a jazz singer or something like that. I don't even call my name. I call myself a jazz artist, but it just, happened. And people starting and getting contacted me, and around a year into my sort of like breakout into jamming with the seniors, other jazz men started calling me. The second band that I was invited to sing for was with J.R. Cobb Jazz Chamber. That's where Johnny Alegre is part of, Butch Saulog, Butch Silveria, and all, while doing brown beat. And then when they saw me in a jazz bar, which is called Long Street, and it started like wildfire. Like everybody's getting me. Yeah, I want to jam with that Putriska girl. They call me Putriska girl. So and yeah, that's how it happened. It was not. It was an accident. So while I wasn't full time with being a jazz singer at the time, because Brown Beat All Stars were we were we were very busy at the time. We're promoting the album, doing tours with with our corporate gigs. And we toured with San Miguel Super Dry Swing Nights, and we were doing regular gigs, out of town gigs, and a lot of those stuff. So I only do sing jazz standards when I have time out with if my schedule with Brown Beat permits. Yun. So yeah, that's what happened. And then eventually Brown Beat sort of lay low, and then I came out with a first jazz album under a London-based, UK-based jazz recording company. They sort of like set up medyo short-lived here in the Philippines, but they're really based in UK. It's called Candid Records, and at the time, some of the artists of local artists of Candid Records were Mishka Adams, Mon David, and then myself, and Johnny Alegre, all soul performers, Girl Valencia. Yeah, those are the Ish Cabral, and we were part of the roster of the international catalog of Candid Records. Some of the most prominent Candid Records artists at the time was Stacey Kent and Jamie Cullum. Ayun, so that's it. Okay. So Brown with Layload, and then I emerged as a jazz singer. It's difficult to label yourself a jazz singer. That's it's a very I'm iffy about that. I let people tell me who I am. I am not into labeling.
Okay. No, it's really nice that you even brought up the old venue, Mong Street, because my wife and I used to frequent that venue a lot. Power Plant Mall.
I did regular stints there with Wodauji.
Yes.
I sang for Wodauji at the time.
Yes. There. So I'm also quite familiar with the local jazz scene, just because I'm not sure if you met him, but he passed away a few years ago. Cadio Ferreria is
yes.
He's
a friend of mine.
Of Executives Band.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Executives Band. Yeah, I know them. Raul Mangalapos. I actually, in my first album, I had Mr. Kaufman was still alive when I launched my jazz album. The band leader of the executives band, and Butch Alberio is still there, and of course Raul Xavier Manglapus, the drummer, and Francis,
Yes.
and one of their songs, original compositions of Freddie Kaufman. I included it in my solo album. It's called "I'm in Love with a Dream." So it's an arrangement by the iconic, the legendary Angel Peña of the Jazz Friends.
Nice, nice. So anyway, small world, ma'am. So anyway,
Yeah,
we're interested to know also, like, of course, we're all in the midst of a pandemic. So what are you doing now, especially from what you mentioned earlier, like you're working with boys, and but how is your music doing right now with the pandemic going on?
yeah. Well, when the I was working with the Boysen before the pandemic. I was working with Boysen. We have this internet show called Boysen Beats. Kasama ko si Sam Don. He's our director in our season 1, and yeah, and our editor too. Um, and then when the pandemic happened, it's more like, it's difficult because we don't know what to do. We all do not know how to handle it, and we thought it's going to be a quarantine thing for only a month. It's still we still we're still under quarantine slightly, yes. And there's still no entertainment business, really happening. uh, and Well, right now we have to be very creative. I'm line producing right now, the second line production that I'm doing with PLCPD. It's an NGO that legislates or push laws concerning violence against women and children, that stuff, women's health. And um, we're going to have a concert this September 11.
Nice.
Uh, our campaign is no to children having children.
Mhm.
Uh, it's a rally concert campaign featuring the artist that will be featuring next this week. This week na yun.
Yes, yes.
Is their Evidencel, Janoy Danao, Siddhartha for the Love, Botflies. Um, there's another one. Si Yen Constantino and Clara Benin and Yumi Laksamana. Those are the artists um, we're going to feature September 11th. It's at 6 o'clock. It's an online rally concert. Yeah, and then I also do online selling and of a lot of things, because here in our house we have a business. Even before ECQ, we sell bagnet, and we also cater food, so we just push it more this time. And yun, what else? I also, when I'm invited to sing, I did several online gigs na rin. Mostly campaigns then for to push some like I did the last gig that I had was to attribute to fundraiser to Asin in in the Visayas area, and we're sort of like helping the musicians there to raise funds for not just musicians, artists. Yes, and yeah, that stuff. And I also yun nga, once in a while I also do my own stuff, like edit my own music video, because that's not something like a racket thing. It's more of like self-fulfillment thing. Yeah. And then of course the normal chores, the daily chores, kasi you're mostly inside the house.
Which
Yeah.
is all do anyway. So okay,
Yeah.
let's hear Scarlett. So You basically answered already the second question, which is basically how you're sort of innovating for the future. So the last question is really about what are the lessons that you've learned so far with the pandemic, and how do you use those lessons to make sure that you're continuously being creative or innovating for the future?
Well, one thing that I've learned for uh, with myself, actually, it's more like you learn, you find out that you can do some stuff because that you're capable of it. You know, there's a small spark of ember there that it was, you know, it was fanned by this quarantine. Like one is here, one is being creative and innovative, and then you try to, resilience is one. Yung patience is being challenged here right now, and when you question what will happen in the future and there is no solid answer, you find ways to sustain stuff like I my livelihood and my passion is music. It has to be something that I should do to contribute to what I know about music, not just sing. So that's why, since I'm into production and singing, the one thing that I've learned during this pandemic is editing. I mean, we know basic, and I enhanced it a little bit more so that it could help my singing. Kasi, di ba, nauso yung online performances, and for me, I'm just not a fan of, you know, fluctuating internet connection while in the middle of your singing, and then the sound is sometimes being compressed. At that time, it was just, you know, the broadcast was just terrible, and the performance and the artistry of the performer and his or her music suffers because hindi siya masyadong klaro, and there's no, you don't you know, it's not something that I'm not a fan of that, you know, because when you present music, it's an art form. It has to be, it has its nuances, it has its silence, it has its pause, it has this I don't know, this ups and downs, and you know, working with the fluctuating internet connection is a big challenge to still, you know, have that come across. So that's why I have to learn editing, I have to learn to shoot myself, I have to make sure I know a little bit about lighting and that stuff, you know, editing, and yeah, that stuff, making it look livelier than normal. So that's what it took a lot of time to really practice, and a lot of pain on my lower back. You know, to do it alone is another thing. Kasi I used to do that, but you know, I delegate work. Like, you, I will do this. Kasi I do that sa production. I delegate work, and there is somebody editing for me for my project. Somebody's directing me. Somebody's doing my lights and everything. Now you have to do it alone. So it's very challenging. Being a techie, which I wasn't planning before. I'm really poor at that. So it's a big challenge for me to adapt to new applications, to find out how how the things that I have in mind would come out on doing it on my own. So that's the challenge now. And I think the good thing about this is that um, applications are also, and programs are also being, you know, hastened. Ang dami lumalabas, and it's a matter of finding out what can help you, and uh, what do you prefer, yon. So it's just out there, so you really have to put in some time sitting down and researching for that, on top of, you know, the normal thing that you do about the creative side of things. So now I realized you have to be the creative person, and you have to be the technical person. You have to be your own PA, your director, your everything. So it's challenging. So that's one thing that I learned this pandemic. And on the side, doing still the chores that I do, and yun nga. On the side too, earning a little more bucks, selling stuff. Because how can you sustain your passion, your time, all those time sitting down and, learning things if you're not eating anymore? So you must also have to also have an income. Yun nga. Unti-unti and yeah. So that's what I realized and what I learned. Adapt and make it fast. Learn it fast.
That's
Yon.
good to hear, Scarlett. So, as we wrap up this interview, maybe you'd like to invite our viewers of the show that you have on September 11th. Maybe you could tell us more where they can watch that concert, and then, of course, to promote the other things that you're doing, like, for example, your magnet business.
Yeah. Again, I would like to invite everyone. We're going to have a rally concert. It's titled Ang Tinig. I think our event poster is coming out tonight or tomorrow morning, and yeah, we will be featuring several artists for that night. Fabulous artists: Evidencel, Jonoy Danao. We are also featuring um, Siddhartha, Yen Constantino, um, Clara Benin, Yumi Laksamana, and Botflies. For the Love, we have two bands and all acoustic yung iba. And then this is our campaign is no to children having children, hashtag girl warriors, girl defenders rather, girl defenders. And this is please like the page PLCPD, and we will feature the concert there on their page, and we will be announcing it more soon on my wall. I'm line producing that together with Noel Tyler and Mark Estandante, also musicians who are into production.
Okay, so we'll be promoting that show definitely as part of the promo for this episode. So once again, Miss Scarlett, thank you very much for gracing us in the show, and we wish you all the best. We hope
Yes.
you'll keep safe and healthy, and you're really
Yes.
so good, like you haven't aged a day. So thank you very much, Scarlett, and
Thank you,
we wish you
Chris.
the best, and hopefully, I'm sure we'll see you live again once it's all.
Yes.
Thank you, Scarlett, for gracing our show. That wraps up another episode of What's Your Flip. Do join us again next Wednesday, 12 noon, as we talk to different people from the Philippine music scene. I'm your host again, Chris Mercado. I hope you guys will keep safe and healthy, practice physical distancing, and keep flipping. Bye.